The other thing is that you have the right and the left. You have Michal and Gavriel, right? The rabbi was already talking about the two angels. Michal represents the right, Chesed. Gavriel represents the left. Now the Ola, Zos Torah Sa'ola. Zos, this is the Torah, the laws of the Ola. Now the other thing the Zohar does is it takes any given verse and it reinterprets each word of the verse to be a discussion about God's aspects in relationship with each other. So Zos is Malchus. Zos is the Shechina. The Zohar talks about that a number of times. Zos has a very specific way about it, and the Shekhinah is relatively the most specific aspect of God that we can relate to the most concretely. If there's not that God is a concrete way of relating to Him, but Zos is this. It's like something that has a presence. That's the whole idea of Shekhinah. Now, Torah. There's two Torahs. There's the written Torah and the oral Torah. And one of the great things about the Zohar is that there's a whole lot of discussion about like what exactly is the oral Torah, how was it transmitted, and so on. The Zohar has a very basic way of understanding the distinctions between the written Torah and the oral Torah. The written Torah is Zer Anpin, is the divine attributes. The oral Torah is Malchus, is the Shekhinah. So what's going on here is Zos Torah Sa'ola. Is you want to know what's going on? Is Zos, which is Malchus, and Torah, which is the written Torah, which is Zerampin, the unification of the masculine and feminine divine aspects are happening through the Ola, through this offering. Why? Because the whole idea is to bring up through our energy, through our dedication, do something, do a good deed that brings up, we call it Mayin Nukvin, feminine waters, which means the feminine waters rises towards the masculine water. In this relationship, the feminine, the Shekhinah, goes up, rises up towards the Holy One, blessed be He, that then they greet each other in love. Now we know, Shir Hashirim says, Smoli tachas l'roshi v'yimin l'chapkeni. That first you start with Gvura, is the left hand. And then the Chesed, the love, follows. The Gvura is connected more to Malchus, the love to Zer Anpin. And then when the Chesed and the Gvura become, the idea is very simple in a way. Chesed and Gvura means, sometimes we're looking to have a relationship with a clone of ourselves. So we can agree, we need a yes woman. Do you know what I'm talking about? In the beginning of a relationship, you find the person who everything you say, they say yes. Everything you think, they think. But then you realize that one of two things. They were just pretending. Or they're dumb. So which one do you want it to be, right? Chaim. What's a real relationship? A person doesn't have to pretend anymore. I don't have to agree with you. But you still communicate, you still relate. So that's what Chesed and Gvura, the right and the left, it's not just about the man and the woman, because the man classically is like more dominant than the woman and has the power of the relationship. It's also really about the Chesed and Gvura being a way of, can you talk to each other, even if your views are not the same. Now, who is going to be the one to bring together the right and the left, the masculine and the feminine, the Zeir Anpin and the Nukva. And the goal is nothing less that once they unify, the unification causes a bringing back up. See, it's like, why is it that you get into a fight with somebody? Because you're emotional. If you're able to see it through the lens of rationality, it would cool you off. Now, even with God, however great Zeir Anpin is, which is relatively Zeir Anpin, the attributes of God are considered infinite in relationship to Malchus. They're the transcendent versus the immanent, because Malchus is immanent, the Zeir Anpin is transcendent. But even they're still called Zeir Anpin, which means a small face. It means emotions are limited. Like a baby is emotional. So the goal is to bring it back up to Chachma and Bina. And in the light of Chachma and Bina, that's the whole idea. Like in Hasidus and Chabad Hasidus, the davening is to have emotions, divine emotions, that are infused by your seichel, by your intellect. If it's just emotions alone, so then that's called, Chabad refers to that as chagas, emotional Hasidism. People who somehow can just short link to the emotions and have an emotional relationship with God that isn't inspired by intellect. So it's just like emotions are short-lived, as long as they're powerful, but they're not steady. So they're looking. There's a tract on ecstasy, where the second Chabad Rebbe kind of explains how, of course, you need emotions, but if it's just emotions, you're awakening the body, because it's like a physiological love of God, which maybe something that Rambam talks about, when he's just like loving God the way a man loves a woman, where you feel it like physiologically and this strong, powerful love. But he says the goal is that the emotions become transformed by the intellect. So this idea might be this concept of bringing back the yichud, the unification of the masculine and feminine, all the way into the ema, which is the bina, understanding, and chachma, and then making this higher level of unity in chachma. So how do we do that? So you have the Kodesh HaKodashim, the Holy of Holies. That's when some aspect of bina is able to illuminate these masculine and feminine aspects of God. And it comes out of Adam. Adam in general, that's why it says Adam, for example, in last week's parsha, refers to the Adam ki yakar mikem. Adam is a certain level, certain elevated form of humanity. And then the Kohen is the embodiment of love. And how do we do this? We do this through prayer. Today we don't have the kabbanot, but tefillot b'makom tmidin. We have the service that's in the place of the offerings. But back then they also had the Anshe Maimed, the people who would, so to speak, pray in the presence of what was going on in the sanctuary, Leviim in their song. And we refer to the Ola as Kodesh HaKodashim because you have there Eish and Mayim, fire and water, Chesed and Gvura, and then another level that's silent. In other words, when we say something silent, it means that its presence is not felt in and of itself. It's only its influence is on that which it affects. There's 3 levels here. And in this, and again that's referring to the mother, to Chachma, to Bina, where there's quietness. And through this, all of the lower faces are enlightened, which is the masculine and feminine aspects of God. And because of that, the carbon enters into this ruach. Ruach means spirit. It becomes like a disembodied idea rather than just a physical thing. And that's what happens actually to the Ola, is it becomes a ruach. Literally, ruach could be referring to the smoke that goes up, but here he uses that as a metaphor for something transforming from the physical to the spiritual. And then what about a behema? Now what's interesting about a behema is that a behema represents klipot, represents impurity. It's a kosher animal, so it's maybe klipot noga. It's like some form of impurity that can be transformed to good or bad, depending on how you relate to it. And through what you're doing is you're talking about yourself. The carbon is happening within you. We talk about talking about the carbon as giving and offering is kind of talking about Jekyll and Hyde. As if you could separate the two parts of yourself, and through this story look at a metaphor of like what would happen if you could scientifically find a way to rip yourself into two aspects. Right? That's what the carbon is. You're bringing your physical self closer. The word for carbon is to bring close. You're bringing close the aspect of yourself. Listen, I went to see falconry school. The falcon, the hawk, is completely trained and is completely controlled by its handler based on the instincts that the falcon has. Can't stop its instincts. It's totally in control. It's totally not in control. It's totally being controlled by its instincts. And through that, the handler can get it to do what it wants. For example, and this is for thousands of years, they used these falcons and these hawks as hunters before they had guns and things like that. What they do is they hold the falcon and they keep it so that it's kind of a little bit hungry, and they take it out for a hunt. So they can, like a falcon can knock out a bird 10 times its size because they're coming down at 200 miles an hour. These things are amazing. And so the person, the falcon, the falconer, whatever they're called, actually wants to take these big animals, these duck or geese or whatever they are, it could be pretty big, and take them home. He doesn't want the falcon to rip it apart and destroy it. So what does he do? After they kill the animal,
After the falcon
kills the animal,